Hi guys, my name is Bridget and welcome to my channel. Hope you're having a great day, and today we are doing the first ever video on this channel, which is very exciting, a little bit nerve-wracking, but a while back on my main channel, I have a makeup channel, it's my main channel, it's called Porcelain, and I used to do like Weirdo Wednesday videos. I would do like a true crime case or a mystery case, and since my main channel is makeup related, it didn't really fit with like what most of my audience wanted, so I decided to separate it, and I finally decided to just go for it and make this channel. I've been waiting for like the right setup and the right everything, but I think we're gonna deal with this for now. The background isn't completely correct, but I will get over it. I will fix it up in the future, but I wanted to go ahead and get this channel started. So welcome to my first case. If you would hit subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. Now let's get into the case of Bonnie Haim. So today we're going to be talking about the case of Bonnie Haim. Bonnie Haim was born on May 21st, 1969, and at the time of her disappearance she was only 23 years old. At the time of her disappearance she had a husband and young son. Her husband's name was Michael and her son's name was Aaron. Aaron was only 3 years old at the time of her disappearance, and she was planning on divorcing her husband, so I will get into that a little bit. So both Bonnie and Michael both work for the same company owned by Michael's aunt, Evan, and her husband. Michael was a manager of this company, the construction supply company, and Bonnie did the books and accounts. So Evan was very close with both Michael and Bonnie, who were employed by her company and part of the family. So Bonnie and Evan were very close friends, and Evan claims that Michael was abusive at least physically one time when they were working at the company. They said they got to an altercation one day in the parking lot and he became physically abusive. So I have a quote from Evan here talking about the one time he got physically abusive that she saw. One day they got into an argument in the parking lot and she came in and crying, and he had slammed her hand in the door and her nails were broke, and she was very upset at that point. So we know of at least one account of Michael being abusive to Bonnie in the past, but it doesn't mean that that was the only time. It also doesn't mean that he had something to do with her disappearance. It's just that we have one record of him being abusive to her in the past. A while after Bonnie and Michael got into this altercation in the parking lot of their job, Bonnie started to plan to divorce Michael and separate from him. So she had opened a separate bank account just under her name that he had no idea about. She even had the bank statements sent to Bonnie's job instead of the house where Michael could possibly see the mail, and she was stashing money away just in case when it came time to leave her she would have some cash set aside. Now eventually Michael did find out about the secret bank account. They don't know how he found out about it, but he did find out about it and forced Bonnie to close the account because they were married and should have the same account according to him. Closing this account did not stop Bonnie's plans of leaving Michael. In fact, she just found more sneaky ways to do it. So instead of opening a bank account, she was stashing money with a friend for the day she decided to leave him. She had signed Aaron up for a new preschool and even put a deposit down on her own apartment away from Michael. So it's unclear if Michael ever found out about these small attempts for Bonnie to leave him other than the one bank account, but on January 6, 1993, which was a Wednesday, both Bonnie and Michael came home from work about 7:30. Bonnie had plans to go to Evan's house later that night to finish up plans for a friend's baby shower, but around 8:30 at night, Bonnie called Evan to tell her that she was not going to make it, and she was very upset. Evan says she was crying and she was upset. I asked why, and she said that she and Mike had gotten into a discussion, and I asked her if she wanted me to call her back later, and she said no, that she would just talk to me in the morning. Needless to say, she did not talk to her in the morning, and that was the last time Evan ever spoke to Bonnie. So that phone call with Evan is the last time anyone ever heard from Bonnie that we know of. Of course, after this phone call ended, about 11 o'clock at night, Michael called his mother Carolyn to come watch Aaron for a few minutes while he went out looking for Bonnie. Carolyn said he was gone for about 45 minutes and came back. He did not find her, and the next day he and Bonnie were both absent from work. He had called out claiming that he was sick after their fight. Now, neither Michael or Bonnie showed up for work that day, but Bonnie's purse was found the same day, stashed in a dumpster by a motel near the Jacksonville airport. So a maintenance worker throwing out the trash found Bonnie's purse in the dumpster, which included all of her cash, credit cards, and ID. So it was very obvious that it wasn't a robbery that went and someone stole her purse. So the police were called, and so were her family members. So after Bonnie's purse was found in the dumpster, of course it was very suspicious, and Bonnie's family was contacted and no one had seen her that day or can get a hold of her. So what they did was they went to the house and they interviewed Michael, asking about where he was, did he know where his wife was. Of course, he said he did not know where she was and had an alibi last night around 11 o'clock of his mother coming over to watch Aaron for a few minutes while he went out and tried to find Bonnie after their fight. Now, the police didn't really buy everything that Michael was saying, so they went back to the motel where Bonnie's purse was found in the dumpster and her car was left abandoned in the parking lot. Now, something about the car that was found, it was Bonnie's car, but the seat was pushed really far back. Now, Bonnie was only 5'3", so she was pretty short, but the seat was pushed way back, like someone of a taller stature was driving the car. It would be really weird for Bonnie to had the seat so far back when she wouldn't be able to reach the pedals too comfortably. And there was also a very fresh footprint. The police determined it was from the last person to drive the vehicle. It was a fresh footprint of a very specific rare type of athletic shoe, and of course Michael did own this specific type of athletic shoe. Now, the police were suspicious of Michael because of the seat being far back and he owning these very specific type of shoe that left the fresh footprints. But of course, a shoe print or your shoe print being in your wife's car does not make you a murderer. But that was just an important thing to note. Also, after Bonnie was missing that night and just drove off, according to him, she drove off in the middle of the night before he went to go search for her. He never called the police, reported her as missing, or even called a job to say that she knew that she drove off on her own. There was no information about where she went, and they just don't know what happened to her after that. Now, people on both Bonnie's side of the family and Michael's side of the family are very conflicted about this case, or at least they were before it was recently solved. Even Bonnie's father thought that Bonnie just abandoned the family. When you see interviews of her father, it just seems very like he resents his daughter. Like, I hate to say that about a parent, like, I don't know what they're going through, but it just seems like he has some kind of grudge thinking that she left the family and that Michael had nothing to do with it. He even said just because there was a footprint in the car doesn't make Michael responsible for any of it. And a lot of the things that I read online have a lot of sympathy towards Michael, which is very strange to me because it seems kind of fishy, but a lot of people online are very pro-Michael, don't dig into it, even though they do have a testimonial from Aaron, Bonnie's son, about what happened that night. So a child psychologist was brought in to interview Aaron, Michael, and Bonnie's son, and Aaron had a lot to say about what happened that night. He was very vocal about what happened that night. Now, he is only 3 years old, and a lot of people think that some of the things he got wrong kind of dismiss his whole statement. He did say that Mommy's car was in the river, and of course we know it wasn't in the river, it was left at the motel, but a lot of the things he said didn't seem like something a child would make up. So he was quoted as saying, "Daddy hurt Mommy," and he also said that there was a big fight that night which ended in his father killing his mother, and that he was a witness to this. So even though a lot of people can't believe a child's statements, it does seem rather specific when you ask a child what happened, do you know where she is, and they say that they saw it happen. So take that as you will, but Aaron has stuck to that story till this day. Now, Aaron did end up in foster care. He got a lot of resentment from Bonnie's parents as well as Michael for testifying against Michael. So Bonnie's parents thought that this child was lying about his testimonial against his own father and kind of resented him for that, and they did not take him in. And then of course, Michael didn't take him either, so Aaron ended up in foster care after his parents' disappearance. But he did end up growing up to be a nice young man, and he never gave up the search for his mother. He was always digging for the truth and the answers, and he always claimed that he knew what happened that night. He saw what happened that night. And a few years ago, Aaron won a wrongful death suit against his own father and was awarded $21 million in compensation, and even got the family home as part of that compensation. Now, here's where it gets a little bit tricky. So Aaron was doing renovations on the family home, and where the pool was, he pulled up the pool to do some renovations and pulled up a slab of concrete and discovered human remains. He discovered the skull, and he even said that he didn't know what it was just some kind of bone until he saw the eye socket area of the skull and put it back where it was and decided to call the police. So the human bones were identified after DNA testing, and it was confirmed to be Aaron's mother, Bonnie Haim. I can't imagine what he was thinking at this time, knowing he just won this house from his father because he won the wrongful death suit, and then just to discover your mother's remains underneath the house, knowing that you lived there for so long, is really disturbing. I can't even imagine, like, when he found that and he picked it up, thinking that that's who that was, and it determined it was who that was. So if he had never dug up the yard, they probably never would have found Bonnie's remains. So because Bonnie's remains were found in the backyard of the family home, it's unclear where Michael went that night for 45 minutes saying he was looking for Bonnie. There's no record of what he could have been doing other than dropping her purse off in the dumpster, but the dumpster was only about 5 miles from Bonnie's home, so no one knows where he was for that 45 minutes. But he was arrested and sent back to Jacksonville, Florida. He had moved and remarried to North Carolina, but he was sent back here for trial, and it only took the jury 90 minutes to charge Michael Haim with second-degree murder of his wife, Bonnie Haim. It's really unfortunate what Aaron had to go through, from losing his mother at his father's hands to being sent to foster care to having his whole family resent him for telling the truth and saying what he saw, but they didn't believe him because he was so young, and then he was the one to discover the body. Like, my condolences go to him very strongly with that. That's ridiculous. If you watch, like, the testimonials from the trial and things, even from Bonnie's mother, it is very clear that this case tore the family apart, just from some people believing that Michael had something to do with it, and some people adamant that he had nothing to do with Bonnie's disappearance, and some people believing that Bonnie just left of her own accord. So it was very interesting to see that dynamic in the courtroom. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video. Please let me know what you think of this case in the comment section down below. Again, I am starting out this channel, so if you want to subscribe, it helped me out a lot. Thank you guys so much, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.